This is Mark Sanborn, president of Sanborn & Associates, an idea studio for leadership development. Back in the early 90s, I was doing a speech for a company in Little Rock, Arkansas. The number one salesperson that year was a guy named Andy Altz. Now, Andy sold Northern Telecom telecommunications equipment. His competitors also sold Northern Telecom telecommunications equipment. The difference was Andy was selling his equipment at a 6 to 8% premium. Now think about this. He was selling the same thing you could buy anywhere else for 6 to 8% more than his competition. Well, at the end of the banquet, I had to ask him, I said, "Hey, Andy," I said, "what are you doing to get people to spend 6 to 8% more for the same stuff?" Now, Andy is deeply Southern. And Andy said, "Oh, you don't get it. See, people aren't spending 6 to 8% more for the stuff. They're spending 6 to 8% more for me." He said, "I know the product better than anyone else who even makes the product. I know my clients better than anyone who calls on them. I'm proactive rather than reactive." And then he said what might be not only the best sales advice, but maybe the best career advice I've ever heard. He said, "The premium I charge is the value I personally create." You see, I think that's the key. I think the kind of employee that an employer fights to keep, that an employer is willing to spend more on, to train and develop more, to give more opportunity to, isn't just an employee that does his or her job the way it's always been done. I believe the most in-demand employee is the kind of employee who can say, because I do this job, it is more valuable to my customer or to my client, to my colleagues, to my company, than if someone else did it. So here's the question to think about today. How are you adding value to the job you currently have or the jobs you used to have? Or maybe, how could you add value to the job you hope to have? I believe that, like I learned from Andy Altz, that the world belongs to those who are truly value creators.